A rooftop sniper opens fire outside an ICE facility in Dallas. One detainee dead, and a message left on the bullets. Plus, Trump's former FBI director now facing indictment. The charges that could land James Comey in court. And the deal set to be signed today, keeping TikTok on American phones, cutting China out of the loop. The stories that matter, clear and credible, from across the country to around the world. These are your unbiased updates from Straight Arrow News. Good morning, I'm Craig DeGrelli. This morning, the fallout is growing from that shooting at a Dallas immigration facility, with Homeland Security now ordering tighter security nationwide and questions mounting about the shooter's motive. Authorities say the gunman, 29-year-old Joshua John, fired from a rooftop at dawn, spraying bullets into vehicles outside the ICE field office in Dallas. One detainee was killed, two others critically hurt, before the suspect turned the gun on himself. Investigators recovered ammunition. One bullet had the message anti-ICE written on it. President Trump and J.D. Vance attempting to tie the shooting to Democrats. Vance describing John as, quote, a left-wing extremist. On Truth Social, Trump said the shooting is, quote, the result of the radical left Democrats constantly demonizing law enforcement, calling for ICE to be demolished and comparing ICE officers to Nazis. In an interview with CBS News, ICE Director Todd Lyons said it was pure luck. More people were not caught in the crossfire.
The shooter fired indiscriminately into vehicles. The detainees were in the vehicle at the time. They weren't outside. There was no way you could have known detainees were in there. What's even scarier is the location where the field office is. There's businesses around there. Busy I-35, 6:40 in the morning. People going to school, people going to work. He had a high-powered rifle. He could have, in his indiscriminate fire, hit people traveling to work, civilians on the ground.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem has now ordered additional security at ICE facilities across the country as the investigation continues. The White House is now warning federal agencies if the government shuts down next week, don't expect furloughs, expect firings. In a memo obtained by NBC News, the Office of Management and Budget directed agencies to prepare for mass layoffs in programs that would lose funding and are, quote, not consistent with the president's priorities. That marks a major shift from past shutdowns, when most federal workers were furloughed and eventually returned to their jobs once Congress cut a deal. The memo says agencies should revise their plans to retain only the bare minimum staff needed to carry out legally required functions. Lawmakers have until next Wednesday, October 1st, to pass a spending bill and avoid a shutdown. A dramatic legal turn for a longtime Trump foe. The Justice Department is preparing to seek an indictment against former FBI Director James Comey, accusing him of giving false testimony to Congress about the FBI's handling of the Russia investigation. The case centers on Comey's September 2020 testimony to the Senate Judiciary Committee about the probe into possible links between Russia and Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. According to multiple reports, prosecutors in Virginia are expected to present the case to a grand jury as early as this week, just days before the 5-year statute of limitations runs out. Trump has publicly demanded charges against Comey and other political opponents, and just last week forced out the U.S. attorney who previously declined to prosecute the case. He installed a White House aide as interim U.S. attorney, and the case against Comey was quickly revived. Comey has long insisted his testimony was truthful. His attorney and Justice Department officials are not commenting. A major escalation in the Gaza flotilla crisis. Both Italy and now Spain dispatching naval ships to protect their citizens on board the aid mission after organizers say drones struck multiple vessels. The global Samud flotilla is a coalition of more than 50 boats that set sail from Europe earlier this month, loaded with food and supplies for Gaza. Organizers call it a humanitarian mission to break Israel's naval blockade. But the voyage has turned dangerous, with reports of at least a dozen drone strikes and damaged vessels in the Mediterranean. Spain's Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez, says his country is sending a naval ship to, quote, ensure safe passage and, if needed, rescue our citizens. About 15 Spaniards are aboard. And today, Italy has deployed a second frigate in support of the flotilla. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni condemned the strikes but urged the activists to hand their aid to official channels, calling the mission dangerous and irresponsible. Israel insists the flotilla will not be allowed to reach Gaza, warning it violates a lawful blockade. The government says it's willing to transfer the aid through its ports, but organizers reject that as illegal. President Trump is expected to sign off today on a new deal to keep TikTok alive in the U.S., ending months of deadlines and threats that the app could go dark. Under U.S. law, China-based ByteDance had until December 16th to sell or cut ties with TikTok, or else it would lose access to American app stores. CBS and NBC report the administration has struck a compromise. ByteDance's algorithm will be rebuilt, and U.S. tech giant Oracle will take control of Americans' data oversight, designed to secure the app's code and prevent China from accessing personal information. Oracle will also take an ownership stake in ByteDance. Officials say the deal meets legal requirements, while critics warn China's influence over TikTok still poses a national security risk. Finally this morning, NASA is shooting for the sun. 3 new spacecraft are now on their way to map the giant invisible bubble that surrounds our solar system. Follow me here. It's called the heliosphere, a massive protective shield created by winds that wraps around our solar system. With help from NOAA and a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket, NASA launched its IMAP mission on Wednesday to figure out how that shield really works. Scientists hope IMAP will explain how the sun creates solar wind and how it interacts with interstellar space, which means occurring between stars, and leads to better prediction of solar storms. Because when those storms hit Earth, they can wreak havoc, knocking out GPS, radio signals, even power grids. And NASA says understanding the heliosphere is also key to one day putting humans back on the moon and eventually Mars. Got all that? When I read this script, it reminded me of the song from the 1980s, She Blinded Me with Science by Thomas Dolby. It's a true thing. Look it up. It was catchy. All right, before we head out, here's what we're tracking today. At 10, Sean Diddy Combs faces a post-conviction hearing in New York tied to a prostitution conviction. At 11, President Trump welcomes Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan to the White House. At 3, he signs executive orders, including what will likely be that TikTok deal. And later today, state lawmakers in Utah must unveil new congressional boundaries under a court order. Don't start your day with hot takes. Start it with cold, hard facts. Sign up for our newsletter. Go to san.com/newsletters. Those are your unbiased updates for this Thursday. We'll see you back here tomorrow, Friday. We love that. For all of us here at Straight Arrow News, I'm Craig DeGrelli. Have a great day.